You ever notice how people love to talk? They talk and talk like their words can shape reality, like their opinions are the only ones that matter. They spit out every little thought that crosses their mind, every frustration, every little insult, like it's their right, like it's power. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you hold it in, when you bite your tongue, when you swallow the words that are burning at the tip of it? That's when the real power starts, isn't it? Because anyone can speak. You ever notice how people mistake silence for weakness? They think if you're not talking, you're losing. If you don't fight back with words, you've got nothing to say. That's the joke, isn't it? The loudest ones in the room, the ones who never shut up, those are the ones with the least control. They let every little thought slip out, every emotion, every impulse, like they've got no brakes, no filter, just endless noise. And noise isn't power. Noise is just noise. The ones who really have control, the ones who hold the cards, they don't waste their breath on meaningless chatter. They know when to speak, and more importantly, they know when to keep quiet. Because silence is dangerous. Silence makes people uncomfortable. Silence makes people think. And when people start thinking, well, that's when things start getting real interesting. Most people talk because they're scared. Scared of what happens when the noise stops. Scared of the quiet. Scared of facing whatever's lurking in the silence. That's why they fill every second with words, with opinions, with justifications. They think if they keep talking, they can control the narrative. They can make the world believe whatever they want it to. But control isn't in the noise. It's in knowing when not to make a sound. It's in watching, waiting, letting others reveal themselves while you say nothing at all. People don't realize how much they give away just by opening their mouths. You let them talk long enough and they'll tell you everything. Who they are, what they fear, what they want. You don't have to ask, just listen, just watch. And the best part, they don't even know they're doing it. It puts them on edge. They expect a response, a reaction. They throw words like punches, waiting for you to swing back. But when you don't, when you just stand there, calm, quiet, watching, that's when they start to sweat. That's when they start second-guessing themselves. Did they say too much? Did they go too far? Did they make a mistake? And that's when they start scrambling to fix it, to backtrack, to explain. That's when they start revealing even more, trying to fill the space you left empty. And you don't have to do a thing. You just let them fall into their own trap. Holding your tongue isn't about weakness. It's about knowing when words matter and when they don't. Some people think every moment is a battle, every conversation a war, and they fight with everything they've got. But real power is in picking your battles, in knowing when to speak and when to let silence do the talking. Because silence can be louder than any scream. It can cut deeper than any insult. It can say more than any speech ever could. It leaves space for people to fill in their own fears, their own doubts, their own regrets. It forces them to sit with their own words, their own actions, without you giving them an easy way out. But that's the hard part, isn't it? Holding back when every bone in your body wants to lash out, when you've got the perfect words, the perfect comeback, the perfect way to tear someone apart. That's the real challenge. That's real control. Anyone can run their mouth. Anyone can let their emotions take over and spill out in an endless stream of words. But to hold it back, to keep it all inside, That's power. That's what people don't understand. They think power is in the loudness, in the aggression, in the ability to crush someone with words. But power is restraint. Power is knowing you could destroy someone, but choosing not to. Power is letting people show their own weaknesses instead of exposing them yourself. And the best part is, when you do finally speak, when you finally open your mouth after holding back for so long, people listen. They pay attention because they know you don't waste words. They know you don't speak unless it matters. And when it matters, well, that's when people start realizing just how much power you've had all along. People act like every little thing demands a reaction. Someone insults them, they have to fire back. Someone questions them, they have to prove a point. Someone pushes their buttons, they explode. Like puppets on strings, dancing to the tune of whoever decides to poke at them that day. It's predictable, it's weak, and worst of all, it's exactly what people expect. See, when you react, you're playing their game. You're letting them set the rules, control the tempo, pull you into their little storm of emotions. And once you're in it, once you've taken the bait, you're not in control anymore. They are. And they know it. They know exactly how to push, exactly how to twist you up until you're nothing but raw nerves and anger, saying things you don't mean, doing things you'll regret. And when it's all said and done, you're the one left picking up the pieces while they sit back and enjoy the show. But what happens when you don't react? What happens when someone spits venom in your face and you just smile? What happens when they throw everything they've got at you and you don't give them a single inch? That's when the real fun begins, because people aren't used to that. They expect fireworks. They expect a fight. They expect you to break, to crumble, to throw yourself into the fire just so they can watch you burn. And when you don't, when you stay calm, steady, like none of it matters, oh, that drives them insane. Because suddenly, they're the ones who look weak. They're the ones who seem desperate. They're the ones grasping for control that just isn't there anymore. See, not everything deserves a response. Not every insult needs an answer. Not every challenge needs to be met head on. People think that if they don't react, they're letting someone walk all over them. But that's not how it works. That's just another trick, another lie people tell themselves to justify their lack of control. The truth is, reacting isn't power. Reacting is being controlled. It's letting someone else decide how you feel, how you think, how you move. And if you let every little thing get to you, if you let every little word shake you, then you're not strong. You're just a puppet, dancing on strings you can't even see. So what do you do instead? You wait. You watch. You let people show you who they really are before you give them anything in return. Because the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop playing their game, you take their power away. They throw punches that don't land. They set traps you don't step into. They scream, they push, they try to get under your skin, and all they get in return is silence. And that silence is louder than any words you could ever throw back at them. It makes them uncomfortable. It makes them squirm. It makes them realize that no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, they don't control you. And that's what really matters. Control. Not over them, no. That's not the goal. The goal is control over yourself, control over your emotions, control over your reactions. Because once you have that, once you master that, nothing can touch you. No insult, no provocation, no pathetic little attempt to drag you into the dirt. You rise above it. You stay untouchable, and the people who once thought they had power over you, they start to realize just how wrong they were. They start to see that the real power was never in the reaction. It was in the refusal to give one. People throw words around like they're harmless, like they're just air leaving their mouths, but words? Words are weapons, sharper than knives, more destructive than bullets. A well-placed sentence can do what no fist ever could. Turn friends into enemies, burn bridges in an instant, tear someone apart from the inside out. And the funny thing, most people don't even realize they're doing it. They don't stop to think before they speak, don't consider the weight of the things they say. They just let their emotions take over, let their anger, their fear, their desperation spill out like poison, spreading, sinking in, leaving scars that never heal. And once it's out there, once it's been said, there's no taking it back, no rewinding, no undoing, no fixing what's already been broken. People think that as long as they don't mean it, it doesn't count. That if they were angry, if they were hurt, if they were pushed too far, then whatever they said in the moment shouldn't matter. But that's not how it works, is it? Because once words are spoken, they don't belong to you anymore. They belong to whoever heard them. They sit in their mind, echoing, twisting, turning into something bigger, something worse. A single phrase, a single insult, a single careless comment can bury itself so deep in someone's soul that they carry it with them forever. And you move on. You forget. But they don't. They never do. And that's the real danger, isn't it? The fact that sometimes the worst wounds aren't the ones you can see. That's why control matters. That's why knowing when to keep your mouth shut is more powerful than any comeback, any insult, any moment of satisfaction that comes from tearing someone down. Because that moment, it fades. The fire, the rush, the sense of victory, it all disappears. But the damage lingers. And the cost, the cost is always higher than you expected. People lose everything over a few words said in anger. They lose respect, they lose trust. They lose the people who once stood by them, who once believed in them, all because they couldn't stop themselves from saying something they shouldn't have. But that's the thing, isn't it? People don't think, they react. They let their emotions take the wheel, and before they know it, they've driven straight off a cliff, dragging everyone else down with them. They speak just to fill the silence, just to make sure they have the last word, just to prove a point that won't even matter tomorrow. They don't realize that sometimes silence says more than words ever could. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is hold back, is resist the urge to strike. Just because you know you can. Because power, real power, it isn't in the ability to hurt. It's in the ability to choose not to. People respect those who don't waste their words. They listen to the ones who only speak when it matters. Because when you know the value of your words, when you treat them like the weapons they are, you don't throw them around carelessly, you sharpen them. And when you do, people take notice. They know that when you speak, it's not just to make noise. It's to make an impact. And that's what sets you apart. That's what makes you dangerous. Not your voice, not your volume, but your silence. Because silence means control. Silence means patience. Silence means power. And in a world full of people who can't stop talking, The ones who know when to stay quiet, those are the ones who win. People like to think words are just words, just sounds strung together, floating around without consequence. But that's the trick, isn't it? That's the lie. Words aren't just noise. They have weight. They have force. They leave marks you can't see but feel for a lifetime. And once they're out, once they slip past your lips, they don't belong to you anymore. They belong to the world, to the people who heard them, to the ones who felt them cut deep. You ever see someone smile after they've been insulted? That little twitch in the corner of their mouth, the one that doesn't quite reach their eyes? That's not a smile. That's a scar forming in real time. A wound that won't heal right. A reminder that some things, no matter how much time passes, don't fade. People say things in anger they don't mean, or so they tell themselves. I didn't mean it. I wasn't thinking. It was the heat of the moment. That's the excuse, right? That's how they sleep at night, convincing themselves their words were just temporary madness. But here's the funny thing. Anger doesn't create new thoughts. It only reveals the ones you were already holding back. So maybe the insult, the accusation, the ugly little truth that slipped out in the middle of an argument, that wasn't an accident. That was real. That was honest. And that's why it stings so much. Because the person on the other side of it, they know it too. People don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want pretty little words that make them feel safe, that smooth over the cracks, that tell them everything's fine even when it's not. And the second you strip that away, the second you say something raw, something real, they flinch. They can't handle it. And that's why most people don't think before they speak. Because thinking means realizing the weight of what's about to come out of your mouth. And if they stopped for just a second, if they really thought about what they were about to say, they'd be terrified. Because words aren't harmless. They never were. The strongest people aren't the ones who say the most. They aren't the ones who dominate the conversation, who always have something to say, who fill every silence with words just to feel important. No, the strongest ones are the ones who know when to keep their mouths shut, who know that not every thought needs to be spoken, who know that holding back takes more strength than lashing out ever will. Because the world is full of people who can't control themselves, who let their emotions lead them into destruction, who talk first and think later. And those people, they're predictable. They're easy to manipulate, easy to provoke. All it takes is the right word, the right push, and they'll explode right on cue. But the ones who stay quiet, the ones who don't react, the ones who don't take the bait, oh, those are the ones you have to watch out for. Because they're not playing the game the way everyone else is. They're not speaking just to speak. They're waiting, calculating, letting everyone else show their hand before they decide whether they even want to play. And when they do speak, when they finally break their silence, every word lands like a hammer, like a bullet, like a bomb going off in the middle of a crowded room. Because they don't waste their words. They don't throw them away. They know the value of what they say, and that makes them dangerous. That makes them powerful. That makes them untouchable. But most people will never get it. Most people will keep talking, keep running their mouths, keep reacting to every little thing like puppets on a string. Because it's easier. It's easier to speak without thinking, to throw words around like they don't matter, to believe that everything can be fixed later. But later doesn't always come. And the damage? Oh, the damage is always deeper than they realize. The only real question is, when the dust settles, when the words have done their worst, who will be left standing? The ones who lost control, or the ones who never let themselves slip in the first place? People have this funny little habit. They hear something they don't like, and suddenly their whole body tightens up. Their face twists. Their hands clench into fists. And before they even realize it, before their brain catches up, their mouth is already running, spitting fire, throwing daggers, trying to hurt before they can be hurt. That's the instinct, isn't it? But the question is, prove what? That you have no control? That anyone with the right words can turn you into a puppet? That they can pull your strings, make you dance, make you break? Because that's what's really happening. And most people, they don't even see it. They think they're winning when they lash out, when they let their emotions take the wheel, when they say exactly what's on their mind without a second thought. But that's not winning. That's being controlled. That's being predictable. And being predictable, that's being weak. You ever notice how the ones who react the fastest are the ones who lose the most? They say something stupid, something reckless, something they can't take back. And then they have to deal with the fallout, the apologies, the explanations, the regret that creeps in when the fire burns out and they finally see the mess they made. But the ones who don't react right away, the ones who don't let their emotions drive them off a cliff, they stay standing, they stay in control. And that's what really matters. Because in this world, control isn't about strength. It's not about who yells the loudest, who fights the hardest, who throws the biggest punch. No, control is about knowing when to strike and when to stay silent. People talk about power like it's some loud, violent thing, like it's about dominance, about crushing the other guy, about proving you're the biggest, the baddest, the one no one dares to mess with. But real power is quiet. Real power is restraint. Real power is standing in the middle of chaos and not flinching, not blinking, not giving anyone the satisfaction of seeing you crack. Because the second you react, the second you let them see they got to you, you've already lost. You've given them exactly what they wanted. They wanted you angry. They wanted you desperate. They wanted you scrambling for control that was never theirs to take in the first place. And that's the trick, isn't it? Most people don't realize they already have control. It's right there, sitting in their hands. But instead of holding on to it, they throw it away. They give it up the second someone challenges them, the second someone questions them, the second someone dares to poke at their fragile little sense of pride. Because that's all it is, pride. And pride is a fool's weakness. Pride makes people reckless. Pride makes people blind. Pride makes people open their mouths when they should be keeping them shut. And for what? To win an argument? To prove a point no one's going to remember tomorrow? To walk away feeling like they got the last word? The last word doesn't matter. The last word is just noise. The only thing that matters is who walks away untouched, who walks away untangled, untethered, unbothered. The person who lashes out, who lets their emotions control them, who fights for every little inch, they walk away exhausted, wounded, angry. But the person who keeps their cool, the person who sees the game for what it is, they walk away untouchable. And that drives people crazy. Because they want you to break. They want you to fall apart. They want you to be just like them. Weak, desperate, easy to manipulate. But when you don't react, when you don't give them what they're looking for, when you smile instead of snap, when you stay calm instead of crumble, that's when you win. That's when you take back everything they tried to steal from you. That's when they realize they never had power over you in the first place. Because power isn't about reacting. Power isn't about proving anything to anyone. Power is about knowing when to hold back, when to walk away, when to let the other person burn themselves out while you stand there untouched by the flames. Because in the end, the only real power is control. People love to talk. They love to fill the silence, to make noise, to let words spill out of their mouths like a leaking faucet that no one ever bothers to fix. It makes them feel important, like they matter, like if they just keep talking, keep yelling, keep making themselves heard, then somehow they'll stay in control. But that's the thing, isn't it? The more they talk, the less control they actually have. Because control, real control, it's not about how much you say, it's about what you don't say. It's about what you keep locked up, what you refuse to give away, what you make the other person beg for. And that's where most people go wrong. They think control means taking over the conversation, dominating, drowning everyone else out. But all that does, it shows how desperate they are, how scared, how weak. You ever notice how the most dangerous people in the room are always the quiet ones? The ones who sit back, watch, listen. The ones who don't need to announce themselves, don't need to prove anything, don't need to fight for attention. They already have it. Not because they're loud, not because they demand it, but because there's something about them that makes people uneasy. That's control. That's what keeps the loudmouths up at night, wondering what the quiet ones are thinking, what they're planning, what they know that no one else does. Because people fear the unknown. They fear silence. They fear what they can't predict, what they can't provoke, what they can't manipulate. And when you don't react, when you don't give them the satisfaction of knowing what's going on inside your head, that drives them insane. That makes them crumble. That makes them weak. But people don't get it. They think staying quiet is the same as losing. They think if they don't fire back, don't snap, don't defend themselves, then they've already lost. But the real loss is losing control of yourself, letting someone else dictate your actions, your words, your emotions. That's what they want. They want to pull the strings. They want to push the right buttons, get the right reaction, make you dance like a little puppet just so they can feel like they're the ones in charge. And most people, they fall for it every time. They take the bait. They get angry, they shout, they argue, they throw words around like they don't matter. But every word they throw, it's proof that they've lost control. Proof that someone else is calling the shots. That's why silence is so powerful. That's why knowing when to shut up is more dangerous than any threat, any insult, any moment of fake bravado. Because when you don't react, when you don't engage, when you don't give them anything to work with, they start to fall apart. They start questioning themselves. They start wondering if they went too far, if they said the wrong thing, if they made a mistake. And doubt, doubt is a killer. It gets inside their head, eats them alive, makes them paranoid, makes them desperate. And when someone's desperate, that's when they make mistakes. That's when they start flailing. start losing whatever power they thought they had. But you're different. You don't need to react. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to waste your breath on people who aren't worth it. Because you know that control isn't about who talks the most. It's about who stays standing when the dust settles. It's about who walks away untouched while everyone else is left picking up the pieces. It's about patience, restraint, knowing when to speak and when to let the silence do all the talking. Because silence is terrifying. Silence is unpredictable. Silence is the one thing no one knows how to fight. And when you master that, when you learn to hold back instead of lash out, when you learn to control yourself instead of letting others control you, then suddenly the game isn't about who wins or loses anymore, because you've already won.